Morning all. Is the screen visible to all of you? Please type your answer in the chat box. Okay, so if the screen is visible, let us start with today's lecture. In yesterday's lecture, we have studied about importance of dropout architecture. We have also talked about various issues or challenges related to deep neural network like vanishing gradients, weight initialization, then computational overload. And we have also talked about how to resolve these problems. From today's lecture, we are going to start with uh, introduction to various architectures of deep neural network, and mainly we are going to study convolutional neural networks. Okay, so as in your syllabus this convolutional neural networks are mentioned, we are going to talk about this architecture in detail. Okay, so before going to CNN, let us have a look at brief introduction to various architectures. So basically, DNN, deep neural network, is nothing but a modified version of conventional neural neural networks. So like conventional neural networks, with deep neural network, we have uh, mainly two types: feed forward neural networks and feedback type neural networks. Okay, so like your conventional networks, DNNs come in a wide variety of shapes and sizes depending on the applications. The popular shapes and sizes are also evolving rapidly to improve accuracy and efficiency. In all cases, the input to a deep neural network is a set of values representing the information to be analyzed by the network. That is, for instance, these values can be pixels of an image. Okay, so every pixel from the image can act as one of the features. Similarly, it might be sampled amplitudes of an audio wave. If you are training a network to analyze some audio signals, in that case, input features are nothing but amplitudes of an audio wave, or the numerical representation of the state of some system or game when you are using some reinforcement learning techniques. Okay, so input can be any parameter which is related to the data to be analyzed. Okay, so like conventional neural networks, deep neural networks can be divided into two types: feed forward type deep neural networks and feedback type deep neural networks. Feedback type neural networks are also known as recurrent neural networks. So feed forward networks. In feed forward networks, all of the computation is performed as a sequence of operations on the outputs of a previous layer. Actually, we have studied these two techniques, feed forward networks and feedback networks. So I want answers from your side. Please type what is main difference between feedback and feed forward network. Please type your answers in the chat box. Type any 2 points or at least 1 point of comparison between feed forward neural networks and feedback neural networks. Okay, I'm getting few answers, but those are not very correct. What about others? At least these two students, they have attempted to give answer. That's good. Though your answer is wrong, doesn't matter. Please make an attempt. We have talked about this many times. Please type your answer. Main difference between feed forward network and feedback network. Okay, now I'm getting few additional answers. Any other answers? Okay, so here I got answers like weight updation method is different. Then error correction is in feedback neural network. Then output acts as feedback, thus acting as input in feedback network. One more answer is weight adjustment in feedback. Then next is error is not uh, fed back from output to the hidden layer. Then next answer is feedback neural network has error correction, optimization, and feed forward neural network only derives output based on weights and biases. So out of all these answers, only one answer is correct, that is output act as feedback and thus it is fed back as input in the next layer. So as the name indicates, in feedback neural networks, the error correction takes place in all the networks with feed forward networks as well as feedback networks. Similarly, weight updation takes place for feed forward networks as well as feedback network. Okay, so these are not points of differences between feed forward network and feedback network. In case of feed forward network, we simply propagate error backwards. That doesn't mean we are giving output as feedback to the input. Okay. So in both feed forward as well as feedback networks, error backward propagation of error is possible. And weight updation is required for all the networks. But difference between feed forward and feedback is that in case of feedback networks, after initially feedback networks starts with one input condition, and after first time step, output of the network is given as input to the node. It is fed back as input for all next time steps. Okay, so for feedback network, your current output depends on previous outputs, which is not the case with feed forward networks. That is main difference between feed forward and feedback networks. Now, as in case of feed forward networks, basically all the computation is performed as a sequence of operations on the outputs of a previous layer. It is not on the outputs of previous iteration. Okay, so the final set of operations generates the output of the network. For example, a probability that an image contains particular object, or the probability that an audio sequence contains particular word, or a bounding box in an image around an object, or the proposed action that should be taken. Okay, so for these object detection classification techniques, we can use feed forward network, and mainly feed forward networks doesn't need any memory. Why it doesn't need memory? Because the output for an input is always dependent on the present input. It does not depend on previous outputs. That's why there is no need of memory for storing the previous state's outputs. Okay. So this is one important feature of feed forward network, or one important difference as compared to feedback network. Hope you are getting this. Okay, now recurrent network or feedback type of networks. So in contrast to feed forward networks, recurrent neural networks have internal memory to allow long-term dependencies to affect the output. So here output at given instance, it depends on few previous outputs. And that's why in order to store those previous state outputs for recurrent neural networks, there is requirement of memory. And one of the popular variant of recurrent neural network is long short-term memory networks. Okay. But as this is not included in syllabus, we are not going into details of these types of networks, recurrent networks. Okay. So in recurrent networks, some intermediate operations generate values that are stored internally in the network and used as inputs to other operations in conjunction with the processing of a latter input. Okay. So your current output depends on present input and previous outputs. That's why there is need of memory in case of recurrent or feedback type of networks. Okay. So now we are going into details of fully connected deep neural networks, which are of feed forward type. So let us have a look, detailed look at feed forward type deep neural networks. So deep neural networks can be composed solely of fully connected layers. Means, what do you mean by full connection? Every node from one layer is connected as input to every node from next layer. That is meaning of full connectivity. Okay, so in a fully connected layer, fully connected DNN, there are various fully connected layers, and in a fully connected layer, all output activations are composed of a weighted sum of all input activations. That is, all outputs are connected to all input nodes from the next layer. So this basically, what is drawback of this fully connected neural network? Can anybody tell me what is drawback of fully connected neural network? Basically, when there are connections between all nodes from one layer to all nodes from other layer, it requires significant amount of storage and computation. Now, even with feed forward network, why we need some amount of storage? We need storage to store the weights. Okay, this storage doesn't mean memory uh, for storing previous outputs. Okay, this storage is for storing weight values. Once the network is trained, you need to store the weight values, and during training phase you need to store weight values temporarily, and you need large amount of computations because there are more number of connections. More number of connections means more number of weight values. More number of weight values means there are more number of product terms, more number of additions. Okay, and hence large amount of computation is needed when we are using fully connected feed forward neural networks. Okay, but in many real applications, we can remove some connections between the activations by setting the weights to 0 without affecting the accuracy, and this results in sparsely connected layer. Okay, so though we say that with fully connected layers we are getting best accuracy, for real applications, though we remove certain links, or it is equivalent to setting the weights to 0 values, so still we get better performance, and hence this results in sparsely connected layer. Sparsely connected means there are many weights having 0 values. Okay, and so here, because of 0 weight values, we can reduce number of computations, because a weight value 0, when we multiply something with 0, we get 0 results. So there is actually no need of computing the multiplication value. Okay, so this reduces your number of computations. So still, as in DNNs with fully connected layer, we cannot neglect many of the connections. We can make certain weights for certain connections as 0. Okay, so still storage requirement is greater for fully connected deep neural network. So how to reduce this storage? Now another solution to reduce the number of weights or to reduce the storage is weight sharing, or we can also make the computation more efficient by limiting the number of weights that contribute to an output. Okay, so how to limit this number of weights? This sort of structured sparsity can arise if each output is only a function of fixed size window of input. So instead of fully connected layers, what we can consider that uh, certain, say some local area from the image can contribute to one particular output node. Okay, so here your output is only function of fixed size window. If we say consider an image, so instead of connect and every pixel in the image can represent one of the node from input layer. So if we have say 10 by 10 size image, there will be 100 pixels, and those 100 pixels are acting as 100 input nodes for your deep neural network. Now in the next layer, if we are using full connections, fully connected layers, for second layer, you should have, like your input layer, you should have 10 by 10 array where there are 100 nodes, right? But instead of considering entire image at second layer, or instead of considering all 100 nodes at the second layer, what we can do is we can, for input layer, we can consider a small window, and we will map that small window to one of the nodes in the next layer. So say if you have image of size 100 by 100, and say if we form small windows of size 2 by 2. Let us consider a small size 2 by 2, and in 2 by 2 window there are 4 pixels, and those 4 pixels are mapped to a single node in the next layer. So if we consider that window size is 2 by 2, and if your input image size is 10 by 10, can anybody tell me how many nodes are required in the second layer? Each 2 by 2 pixel is mapped to a single node in the next layer. So how many number of nodes are needed in the second layer? Are you getting this? Input image size, say you have input image size which is say 10 rows and 10 columns. So effectively there are 100 pixels. Now instead of using similar 10 by 10 nodes in the second layer or in the next layer, say if we consider 2 by 2 area, local area from the image, and if we map this local area to only one pixel or one node in the second layer. So here these 4 nodes, those will be connected to this one layer. Then say next 2 by 2 nodes, This next local neighborhood is connected to next node. Then next 2 by 2 region connected to next node. So if we do mapping in similar fashion in this second layer of your deep neural network, can you tell me how many number of rows are there and how many number of columns will be there if we do this mapping without any overlap? Please attempt. If you are not getting the things, please ask me question, type your question in the chat box. Hello? Is the screen visible to you? Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
So say in input layer, you have 10 by 10 array, means there are total 100 number of nodes in the input layer. And in next layer, now instead of having one-to-one mapping, if I consider a mapping of small 2 by 2 window for one node, can anybody tell me what is size of this matrix at next layer? Whether it is
5 by 5.
yes, now, yes, your answer is correct. So here, every 2 by 2 area is mapped to one node, next 2 by 2 to next node. So if there are 10 columns, it will reduce to 5 columns. And these 10 rows, those will reduce to 5 rows. And totally, you have only 25 nodes in the second array. So for full connectivity, we needed 100 nodes. Now those number of nodes are reduced by 1/4 because we have considered a fixed size of window which is mapped to one particular node in the next layer. Okay, so if we don't consider any overlap, we will get only 25 nodes in the next layer. Okay, so this helps in reducing your storage because now you need to connect 100 these simply 4 nodes to one node, and effectively 100 nodes are to be connected to these 25 nodes. Okay, so this is one advantage of using mapping from a fixed window to output. And for many real applications, this works very well. Okay. So here, basically, in order to reduce amount of storage and mainly to reduce amount of computations, this concept is used. Even further efficiency can be gained if the same set of weights are used in the calculation of every output. So a small window of size 2 by 2, how to map it to a single node from the next layer. If that mapping function is same for all the windows, it means that you are using same weight values for all the windows. And when you are using same weight values for all small uh, local areas from the image, you are actually sharing same weights for the entire image. So if my mapping function is say 1 1 1 1, means those filter coefficient values are 1 1 1 1, and the same thing represents your weights between input layer and next layer. And if you use this same mapping function of 1 1 1 1 for all the local areas from your entire image, you need only 4 weight values for the entire image. Means you are using those same 4 weights, W1, W2, W3, W4 for the entire image. So if you have 100 to 100 mapping, you with different weight values, you need large number of weights. But if you are using same weight matrix for the entire image, you need very less number of weights, and thus this helps in significantly reducing number of weights, and effectively it significantly reduces storage requirement for weights. Getting this? So your convolutional neural networks are based on this concept. Okay. So an extremely popular windowed and weight shared deep neural network layer arises by structuring the computation as a convolution, where the weighted sum for each output activation is computed using only a small neighborhood of input activations. That is, all weights beyond the neighborhood are set to 0. So if we are considering a small neighborhood of say size 2 by 2, then uh, for all other region in the image, for all remaining say 96 pixel, your weight values are 0. So no need to store those weight values, right? So using only a small neighborhood of input activations means all weights beyond the neighborhood are set to 0, and where the same set of weights are shared for every output. That is, the filter is space invariant. Okay, so those weight coefficients, we are using same weight values for the entire image. Means we are using same weight matrix for all other neighborhoods of size 2 by 2 in the given image. Okay, it means your filter is space invariant, and such convolution based layers are referred to as convolutional layers. So in your deep neural network, certain layers, they don't have full connectivity, but they are based on this windowed structure. Okay, and those layers are known as convolution layers. And deep neural network using certain layers as convolution layers, these networks are known as convolution neural networks. Okay, so let us learn additional things about convolution neural networks. So basically, what is CNN and what is motivation for these convolution neural networks? So these researchers, Hubel and Wiesel, studied the structure of visual cortex in mammals. And for this study, they won Nobel Prize in 1981. So these were researchers in uh, actual biological structures of mammals. Okay, and they studied about this structure of visual cortex in mammals, and their research revealed that neurons in the visual cortex had a small local receptive field. That is, neurons look at a smaller subsection of the image that human is viewing. Okay, so every neuron in brain, it corresponds to a small local neighborhood from actual image, and this is motivation for these convolutional neural networks. Okay, so this idea then inspired an ANN architecture, that is convolution neural network, and this is implemented in 1998 by Yan Lei. He was director of AI research at Facebook at that time. Okay, so first implementation of convolutional neural network was done by Yan Lei. And motivation is nothing but how the uh, brain neuron receives uh, visual signals. It is based on this particular motivation or this particular concept. Okay, so as we discussed right now, in convolution network, there are certain layers which are based on convolution operation. So here, for these networks, mainly there are two components: convolution networks and fully connected classifier network. These are main two components of your CNN architecture. And these convolution layers are used to derive features. So as I have told you in introductory lectures of deep neural network, in deep neural network, feature extraction module is integral part of the network. And these convolution layers are used to extract features from the given input image data. Okay, so here with CNN, there is no need to extract the features uh, and then apply it to the network. Why? Because the network performs it on its own. These initial convolution layers are useful to extract the features. So convolution neural network is mainly composed of, it consists of convolution layers, and second component is fully connected classifier networks. Okay. So now if you look at this figure, just look at very first component, which is used for feature extraction. Okay. If you observe here, there are two types of layers. First is convolution layer, then next is pooling layer. Okay. Again convolution layer, then pooling layer. Now what is difference between these two layers, convolution layers and pooling layer? So pooling convolution layer, as I said, convolution layer is used to perform convolution of small local area with some filter coefficient, with some weight value. So that operation is done by convolution layer. And pooling layer is nothing but it is subsampling your input data. Basically, again, further, in order to reduce amount of computations, what we do after every convolution layer, we reduce the total number of samples by using this pooling layer. Okay. So pooling layer performs task of subsampling. We go on reducing the filtered image size by using these intermediate pooling layers. Okay. So your convolution neural network, it mainly it has two components. First is feature extraction. Second is fully connected layer for classification. Under feature extraction, there are two types of layers: convolution layer and pooling layer or subsampling layer. And this entire block is, that is first block, is useful for learning the features, or this part is trained for extracting appropriate features from the given data samples. Hope these basic concepts are clear to you. How to do it, we are going to study. Okay. So basically, why convolution and what is meaning of convolution operation? Now, I think all of you have studied this term convolution in DSP or signals and systems or signal processing. So for one-dimensional convolution, this formula is written here. A sequence X can be convolved with filter coefficients H, and this equation for convolution operation is as given here. summation I runs from 0 to 2. If filter size is 2, I runs from 0 to 2, xt minus I hi. This represents your convolution operation for one dimensional signal. Now, as we are using these CNN or convolution neural network for images, we are directly going to study about two-dimensional convolution. So those who have studied DIP, digital image processing, they are familiar with this 2D convolution operation. So operation on the set of neighborhood nxy of each pixel gives you 2D convolution operation. So when we are talking about images, we consider a neighborhood or local area and we apply a filter over that local area. Okay, so as shown here, say if you have this particular image, okay, which is of size 2 rows and 4 columns, and say you have a mask or filter shown in blue color here, and all the filter coefficients are having value 1 1 1 1. Now what is meaning of convolving this filter with local neighborhood of same size in the image? Okay, so we apply this filter on this image, means we multiply these filter coefficients with respective pixel values under the mask. Okay, so when we put this blue filter here on the image, we get these 4 pixel values. Okay, as shown here, these are 4 pixel values. Now what operation we do? It is convolution operation, means we multiply 6 with 1, 8 with 1, 12 with 1, 200 with 1, and we all add all these product terms. Okay, so effectively it is because the coefficient value is 1, we can simply add these numbers and this is your resultant value. So this is nothing but your two-dimensional convolution operation. Is the operation clear to you? Now for next iteration, once we apply the mask here for 2 by 2 filter, this particular is pixel under consideration. We replace this pixel with a new value, say 226. Okay. Now for next iteration, we can scroll the mask at next pixel position as shown here. Okay, so this is new position of your mask. Now applying same filter with values, same values 1 1 1 1, applying it here means simply add these numbers because you are multiplying it by 1, and what new value you are getting? 222 plus 8, that is 230. So this is new value 230 at this location. Then you can move to next pixel. Okay, so for next pixel, you need to consider this particular area, and this is your pixel under consideration. Add these numbers and you will get value of 20 plus 10, 30 plus 2, 32 here. Now, instead of coefficients as 1, if these coefficient values are 1 by 4, tell me what are the new values for these 3 pixels, 6, 8 and 2. Type your answer in the chat box. Okay. Now instead of 1, consider these filter coefficients or weight values as 1 by 4, 1 by 4, 1 by 4, 1 by 4. And tell me new value of pixel 6. Say this is your first pixel. Then second pixel, that is 8. And third pixel, that is 2. Tell me new values of these pixels. Please attempt. Is the question clear to you? Or it is very simple, that's why you are not attempting it? Is it so? If if it is the case, I will move directly to next slide. Am I audible? Is the screen visible to you? Please answer something, either type in the chat box or unmute and answer. Okay, so it seems this operation is clear to you because no one of you are answering. So I'm assuming it as it is very simple and you know all these things. And I'm going to next slide. Just tell me whether I'm audible or not. Please type yes or no. If I'm not audible, please let me know. Am I audible? Is the screen visible to you? At least.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
चलो, तो आपको ये सब पता है कन्वोल्यूशन कैसे करना है. Now give answers to my next question. What do you mean by stride? Please answer these questions. What is stride in convolution operation?
मैम फॉर प्रीवियस क्वेश्चन आपको रिसीव नहीं हुआ था क्या चैट पे? वी हैव गिवन द आंसर्स.
नो आंसर.
Yes, ma'am, we have sent.
यहाँ.
मैम आई हैव मतलब काफी ने दिया है, मैंने भी दिया.
हाँ. ओके, अभी हाँ ये थोड़े मिल रहे हैं मुझे आंसर. Okay, sorry. Okay, so I received few answers. Okay, so here now let us now this convolution operation is clear to you. Now uh, what is stride for convolution operation? Okay, so stride is basically by how many number of columns you are scrolling the mask, that is your stride operation. Okay, so if we scroll it by say one column and one row, then it means stride is equal to 1. So as we did in previous example, first we considered this window, then we scrolled the mask to next position, then next column, means stride rate is 1. Now instead of one column, say if I stride it by say 2 column, in that case, first we consider this area, then we directly consider this area. Okay, so here stride rate is 2 because we are going to next next column. After considering this column, we are directly going to this column. Okay, similarly for after completion of all the columns from this row, if stride is 1, we can go directly to this pixel, which is 12. And if stride is 2, we can directly go to this particular pixel if your image is having next rows. Okay, so this is meaning of stride, by how much rows and uh, uh, columns you are scrolling this mask over the image. That determines your stride rate. Now tell me, if you want to determine new value of this last pixel, okay, if after this column, you can, with stride of 1, you are considering this particular pixel, which is 0. Okay. So as if your image size is simply 2 by 4, you need to make some assumption for last column, right? Similarly, if your mask size is instead of 2 by 2, if it is 3 by 3, you need to make assumptions for previous rows and previous columns. And this is known as zero padding. We can pad the image by zeros around the original image. Okay. So that in order to compute values of last pixels, we can uh, determine new value of these pixels with these assumptions. Okay. So these are two important concepts related to convolution operation. First is stride and why we need zero padding. But for feature extraction point of view, many times zero padding is not required because that last pixel value won't affect much over to overall features of the image. Okay. So after convolution operation, uh, in such case, if you are not using zero padding, your resultant image size will reduce, right? Because here for this particular image, if we again consider your original image and very first convolution operation with stride of 1, in that case, your result, what is resultant image size if we apply this 2 by 2 filter on the image without zero padding with stride 1, it results in image size. What is image size? So we are not going to use zero padding, means we cannot determine values of these last row pixels, last column pixels, right? So your resultant image size will be simply 1 by 3, right? There you can determine these three values, new values of 6, 8, and 2. So image, yes, so image size is 1 by 3. Okay. So this is about convolution operation. All these details are very important because uh, because in convolution neural networks, this convolution operation decides size of your every next layer, and it gives you total number of trainable parameters for your network, and that's why this understanding is important. So here I have received one answer which is 2 by 3. Okay, so if we are, so let me explain it to you once again. See, if we are not using zero padding, can you determine new value of this pixel? Tell me, can you determine for a 2 by 2 neighborhood, this pixel is pixel under consideration, means you need these two additional values, right? You need these additional values, right? But as you are not using zero padding, you cannot determine new value of this pixel, and that's why resultant image size will be 1 by 3 and not 2 by 3. Okay. Hope now this is clear to all of you. Okay. Okay, so this is about stride. I'm not going to this mathematical equation. This concept is important. Now here a 3 by 3 mask is shown, and we are applying this 3 by 3 mask on this particular image. If stride is 1, we scroll this mask by 1 column. If stride is 2, we scroll this mask by 2 columns and so on. This is meaning of stride. Then now what is use of these filters? Basically, these we can apply various types of filters on the given image by using convolution layers of your network. And why to apply various filters? Because every filter can result, it gives you some important feature of the image. So on this image, say if you apply this mask, you get edge details. I think all of you are familiar with this mask. What this mask represents? What this mask represents? Those who have studied digital image processing, tell me answer. Please unmute and answer what this mask represents. It is Laplacian filter, right? Laplacian filter has central positive coefficient surrounded by small value of negative coefficients, and this is useful to derive important features like edges from the image. Now, instead of this mask, if you apply this mask, which is known as averaging mask or smoothing mask, yes, Shivam, correct. So this when you apply this mask on this image, it gives blurring operation, and it is useful basically to remove noise, okay? Or it gives you an idea about average value of small local neighborhood, okay? So there are many other types of filters, and every filter results in some important feature of the image. This is how your convolution layers can extract various features from the given image. Of course, in order to derive different features, you need different convolution filters, okay? Like one as shown here, one filter you can use as Laplacian filter, another filter you can use as averaging filter, third filter can be gradient filter, which gives you say details like thick edges in your image. You can have horizontal gradient, vertical gradient, and many other types of filters are there which are useful to derive various features from your image data, input image data. So that's all for today. I hope need of convolution layer is clear to you. Okay, and with this concept, we will continue convolution neural network in tomorrow's lecture, where we will be studying about each and every layer of convolution layer and how to determine total number of trainable parameters in a convolution neural network. So now please type your roll number and name, and if you are having any query related to basic concepts of convolution neural network, please ask. Okay.